God forgives, et ils
Only
sont
God
là,
forgives, and they're
l'équipe
here
qui
now.
est avec
The
moi.
crew
Nous
from the
avons
team. We've
Nicolas
got
Winding Refn, le
Nicolas Winding
réalisateur et
Refn,
l'auteur de ce script. Bonjour
director and
Nicolas,
writer.
bienvenue.
Hello, Nicolas, welcome.
Bienvenue de nouveau à
Welcome
Cannes et de nouveau en
back to Cannes.
compétition.
Welcome back to
Bienvenue
the
Christine Scott
competition.
Thomas, on est
Welcome,
très heureux
Christian Scott
de vous
Thomas. We're thrilled
accueillir
to have you
ici
with us
à Cannes dans
today
ce
in Cannes
rôle
with this
particulier.
a very
Vitaya
particular role.
Pansingham, bienvenue.
Vitya
Merci d'être là.
Pansingham,
Bonjour.
thank
Et
you very much
bonjour
for coming along, and
également
hello as well,
Fongam.
Rata Fongam.
Merci d'être
Thank
là.
you very
On va
much for
essayer de
coming
vous
along.
envoyer votre
I'll try and
salut.
make the same gesture.
Nicolas,
So, Nicholas,
comment est venu
how,
ce
I
film?
mean, where did the film
Il est
come
arrivé
from?
avant Drive, c'est ça?
Did
Vous êtes
you
arrivé
thought
avec
about it
Disney
before
avant
Drive, in
de
fact?
réaliser
You
Drive,
wanted to make this
Nicolas?
film before you made Drive, right?
Yeah, I had my original plan was to go and make this film a long time before Drive, but then Drive happened, and I took a Drive detour and made that instead, knowing that this would be my next film. And it was a great concept because my relationship with Ryan, of course, started there, and we were able to do another movie. But I've always had this idea to do a film about a man who believes he's God versus a man who's searching for religion to believe in.
Pourquoi l'avoir tourné à
Why did you
Bangkok,
film
par
in
exemple?
Bangkok? Why in Thailand?
Well, I found I'd been there a few times, you know, and I found it very interesting as a surroundings. It's very much you're a stranger in a strange land, and it kind of the idea of taking a movie and putting it in a mystical world. I had a very strange experience with my youngest daughter, who has certain abilities to see things that are not there, and I think I wanted to make a movie what it would be like living in that parallel universe.
Christine Scott Thomas.
Christian Scott Thomas.
Comment ça va? On est très
How
heureux,
are you?
je le disais,
We're
de vous
very happy
accueillir,
to
ici.
welcome you back. Nicolas Winding Refn
Un rôle de mère, mais
gave you this role as a mother, but this
finalement,
incredible sort of
en
femme
quelque sorte,
fatale.
comment vous l'avez
I mean, how did you
abordé
deal
avec
with
ce
it
rôle,
with the
Christine?
mic, please?
Elle est fatale, c'est sûr. Elle est
It's certainly
dangereuse
fatal,
et
dangerous,
c'est la mère de tous les
and she's
cauchemars.
the mother of all nightmares.
Et je me suis beaucoup amusée à le faire.
And I had great fun
bien
doing
que
it
c'était assez
because,
peur en même temps.
you know, I frightened myself actually as I was doing it. What do you mean?
C'est pas très agréable de
Well, it's not
jouer
very pleasant
une telle
to play
méchanceté, une telle,
such nastiness,
une telle violence
such violence
dans le personnage. C'est
in the
un peu
character. I
lourd,
mean,
en
it's a
fait.
bit
C'est
heavy.
la première fois que je fais un
It's the
film
first
pareil.
time I've done this sort of thing.
Et puis il y avait
And
beaucoup, il y avait un changement physique qui était
there was
assez
this physical
important.
change that was important,
Et voilà.
and there we are.
On arrive à prendre de la distance quand même avec un rôle
So,
pareil, à
can
s'en
you? How do you
amuser,
step
ou,
back from this
on
role?
le
Can you
sent
have
quand même
fun with it,
intérieurement, on
or
le
do you
vit
really live it
sensiblement?
inside? Well, up to a certain extent, and then the amusement, the fun moves away, and it becomes more and more difficult. But working with him is great fun because you get the impression of real collaboration. I mean, it's real teamwork.
En jouant, on arrive
And
à développer le rôle.
you know, you can really develop the role during the shots. I mean, it's not something which is decided on once you get on the set. I mean, you don't necessarily know how you're going to play it. I mean, it's bit by bit. He's a bit like a painter with the actors, if you like. He adds a little bit here, a few, you know, rub something out there, and it's very pleasant. So nothing is preconceived, Nicolas Winding Refn. When you arrive on the set, I mean, you're open to your actors' proposals?
Well, making films is a little bit like having sex. If you know too much beforehand, it's not very exciting. So I like to meet up in the morning and fetishize about Kirsten Scott Thomas and Ryan and what we could do together, and then we kind of just take it from there.
Alors, est-ce qu'on prend du plaisir alors à tourner de
And so is it a pleasure to act with him, Rata Fongam? I mean, what was it like for you? What was it like working with Nicolas Winding Refn?
Comment vous avez travaillé
How did you work
devant
alongside him?
Actually, Nicolas is very smart and professional. He taught me a lot during the scenes. He taught me that less is more. He told me that what is little, what is more. It's a great time to work with him in this movie.
Mais c'est pas un peu frustrant de ne pas
Isn't it a
avoir
bit
beaucoup de
frustrating
dialogue,
not to have much dialogue because there's very little dialogue in the film? Aren't you a bit frustrated?
But actually working in an international film is my first film ever, so it's hard for me to speak English because not my my languages, right? So it's hard for me too, but it's easy that I not have to speak too much in this film.
Ça vous allait. Comment ça s'est
Okay,
passé
so
votre
I mean, what was it
Vita,
like for you,
votre rôle est à la fois physique,
Pansvingam? You've got a very physical and an intellectual role. I mean, how did you work with the saber, things like this? I don't choreography. I mean, how was it worked out with Nicolas?
Well, one thing about Only God Forgave is not only, yeah, it's a spiritual and also physical film. We, all of us, not only me, myself, Ryan, also Nick, we are involved in physical training just to understand what we're doing. And the end of the movie where me and Ryan have to fight in the film is not just a fighting scene. It's all about mental and spiritual combined together. So even when we train physically to act in a film, we also have to train mentally to put and combine both together. So it's quite interesting. In this scene, fighting scene alone is take a lot of mental training as well.
C'est-à-dire, qu'est-ce que ça veut
So,
dire
I mean, what do you mean by mental training for an actor?
As you mentioned before, in Nicolas' film, there's a very little dialogue.
Ouais.
So in terms of carrying the message or having a dialogue that without saying it, that's what I mean by mental training, that you have to send out a lot of energy to send a message to the audience and also to the character that you are acting with or dealing with.
Alors dans votre travail, Nicolas.
Now, in your work, Nicolas Winding Refn, if I understand right, you've got this idea of the team. You take people spiritually and mentally on a journey. You get this big cohesion, despite your very stylized way of filming. I mean, you know, I can imagine you behind your camera working on your shots and lighting and everything, but at the same time, you pay particular attention to the actors. Do you rehearse? I mean, how do you work with them? I mean, what's it like?
Well, a lot of it have to do with how much money you actually have to make the movie and the limitations that you have financially, and you need to turn that into a strength. I shoot my films in chronologically order, so it's basically scene one and then we go. And the way that it usually starts is that I don't have an interest in knowing what it is that I'm doing. I'm more interested in what it's not. And approaching that, you have to be very open, and it will twist and turn all the way through, and it will never reveal itself until the very end. That's what it is. And the way that we technically do it is that we meet up in the morning, and the actors and me block it out, how they want to move, how they want to stand, and then we really quickly figure out how we can do that, because we have X amount of hours to solve everything. And then when they're comfortable in their standing and their abilities, then we just shoot the hell out of it and move on. So again, it's very much like, I don't particularly like manual labor. I like to see things and then figure out how it turns me on. So every day is always a bit of a new experience.
Vous scrutez, vous recherchez une
I
forme
mean,
de
you're looking for a
spiritualité
sort of
avec votre
spirituality
caméra,
with your
les choses
camera,
se passent ensuite
well,
au montage,
and then,
ça passe
or do things happen, do things come out in the edit? I mean, what's it like?
Well, the way that we usually edit the films, Matt and I, is that when we have finished shooting, we put the film together in a complete different order. And then we start to realize that you can actually do other things with what you have done. And it's kind of like if you have, if you go to a bookstore and you pick up a book of photography and you flip through it like this. At the amount of speed you do that, it tells different stories. And that's what I find interesting.
Je comprends. Comment ça s'est passé avant le tournage?
What was it like before the shoot, Christian Scott Thomas? I mean, is there a real discussion? I mean, do you talk much about the character with the director, or is it you that brings along your own creation, your own reflection?
Alors, il avait parlé de
Well, he
personnages
talked about
mythiques, de
mythical characters,
de
a
déesses,
sort of a goddess in a way, like
ouais,
Medea, or
dans la mythologie, et
yeah,
puis aussi
mythological,
au
yeah,
théâtre,
and in the theatre as well.
Lady Macbeth.
Lady Macbeth.
Faut que je crache par terre et tourne 3 fois.
So I've got to spit now and turn around 3 times. Because it brings bad luck, yeah. Shakespearean superstition.
Donc on avait parlé comme
So-
ça, et puis moi j'avais montré une photo.
So we talked about this. I showed once, I know I was on a photo shoot for a magazine, and I was disguised as a character where, physically I wanted to go towards that. I proposed this to Nicolas, who immediately accepted. What was it, blondness or? Yeah, everything really. The whole sort of appearance.
Ça, c'était une sorte de base de travail, si vous voulez.
So that was a foundation for the work. But I don't know, we didn't rehearse really. I mean, we talked a lot about things, but not as a character, more as... we talked about the film, we talked about the story, where the story came from. He gave me a film to watch, a documentary on gangs in Miami, and and then once we got there, and most of the time was already done on the set with the camera, with the other actors. What's pleasant in taking part in an adventure like this for an actress like you, Kristen Scott Thomas? Well, now, it's very pleasant to have a director who trusts you. It's very pleasant when the director listens to what you have to suggest and goes with you in a direction, but to take you on another direction if needs be. And, once you've got trust there to hear him say, no, that's too much, stop, you're overdoing it, or give me more, or, you're hamming it up, he can give you any indication. If the trust is there, it'll work. If there's a bond between us, it works. The current will pass. And it's good to change your image to go into these different areas you haven't explained to film as well. It was tiring, but yeah. But I mean, it's tiring because you've got this shell, you've got this armor that you wear, and that's part of the character. But me as a woman, I found it really exhausting to have that.
Pattingham.
So the Thais are the strongest in this film, spiritually and so on, in relation to the Westerners. How did you feel that approach? I mean, that Nicolas Winding Refn showed us in the film.
Well, like the title of the movie is Only God Forgives. Anyhow, for in Thailand we believe in. People believe in everything, from God, Buddha. But for me, to believe that I'm God, it's a different way that the Westerner might believe in their God. For me, I feel that I'm a protector of my city, and I have a duty to protect and do the right thing, and to punish people who did a wrong thing, and they should deserve the bad karma of what they did, for what they've done. So for that, mentality or that idea behind this character make me, like Nicholas always said, Pooh, you have to believe that you are God. And for me, I've done several movies that I play monks. I can act as a monk or policeman, yes, but to play God, I wonder how to act like God.
Et alors, depuis, ça va bien?
Are you feeling okay since then? You're okay?
I'm good, yes.
Dieu est forcément thaïlandais.
So God is definitely Thai, not Western. Nicolas Winding Refn.
Well, I think one of the things that was interesting being in Bangkok was that you realize that from a Western approach to religion where things are very categorically and they're very dogmatic in everything, in Asia everything seems just to flow into kind of reality, and mysticism kind of go hand in hand, and there are many beliefs that all carry the same weight around. So it was certainly much more interesting making a Thai man God than a Westerner, because it made it just more magical in a sense.
Merci beaucoup, Nicolas.
Well, thank you very much, Nicolas Winding Refn. Thank you, Kristen Scott Thomas. Thank you, Vitaya Panchingam and Ratha Fongam. So, Only God Forgives in the official competition today in Cannes. We'll see them all in a moment in the press conference.